What is up, YouTube family? Thank you guys for tuning back into Wilburn Reactions. My name is Chod. If you are new to this channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me, get this video a thumbs up, all that good stuff. So I just left off on Elvis. I did like basically a little short documentary on him on the last video. I know you guys were telling me about part 2. I looked it up and I could not find it. So if somebody has that link, please send it to me because I would like to react and see part 2 of that. But another one that was sent to me is Milli Vanilli. I've heard of Milli Vanilli, but I'm not familiar with like the music of Milli Vanilli. I just know that name. Like it was one of those names that I always like heard about in the music industry, but I'm not real like familiar with. But this is a story, a little bit of the story of Milli Vanilli, and what was going on in the music industry at the time. So let's dive into this one, guys.
One of the biggest con jobs in rock and roll history.
Lip syncing has been a tradition in the music industry for decades. But the duo we're going to talk about shaped lip syncing into something that we'd never seen before. Something so simple, bringing along mass chaos, tarnished reputations, and the ultimate fate, tragedy. Milli Vanilli was a German R&B duo from Munich, and it consisted of Fab Morvan and Rob Pleitis. Rob and Fab were young and barely had any money and were desperate to break into the industry. They were handpicked by the people who would actually sing their records. Frank Farian is a German record producer and songwriter who came up with the idea of Milli Vanilli. Frank had a history with other groups, most notably Boney M, of not allowing singers to actually sing on their songs.
That's crazy because already opening up in this documentary, like I said, I'm not familiar. So already just telling me that it's lip syncing, singing, sorry. And they probably sound like they might have been the best at doing it. So it almost makes me feel great that I haven't reacted to any of this because I would have been like pissed off if I would have reacted and be like, oh yeah, this group is amazing. And then to get here to the documentary to find out it wasn't even like really them behind it, I guess. But I got to listen to more to see how far this detail goes in before I make my judgment.
The band members were merely just actors who mouthed words. The singers behind Milli Vanilli didn't fit the industry look. They were older, not attractive, and were comfortable with being out of the spotlight. The story of Milli Vanilli began in 1988. Frank recorded an album with other singers, however he found none of them marketable and didn't think they would sell well, so he went looking for dancers and models. Rob and Fab were the lucky duo, so they thought. Now initially they thought they would actually be able to sing on the songs, as any artist would do, but they didn't read their contracts, and they needed money desperately, so they were forced to lip sync to pre-recorded music.
We were young, naive, stupid, desperate.
Then suddenly...
Okay, so that makes more sense then. I'm glad that came out. That's why I didn't want to make my judgment too early because now it's making more sense that they didn't come in the street thinking like, oh, you know, we're just going to get by lip singing every song and people get to know us. And I was going to ask that too. Like, what about when it comes to the studio? Like, you can't lip sync studio. So they had to get voices from other artists. And then obviously Milli Vanilli lip sync over it. But still, you have to have the studio version and somebody to make the song. So my thing is now, the original creators of the song, were they getting paid too for Milli Vanilli to actually lip sync over it? Like, were they getting a check or he was just using people maybe that didn't know the industry? And then this is not the first time I've heard of artists back then not reading contracts or not knowing what they're signing. But I guess I've seen like enough documentaries or movies where there's artists like that had that, and there's a lot we can sit back and say as humans right now, we'd be like, oh, I wouldn't sign that contract. I mean, if somebody comes to offer you, you know, $80,000 and say, you know, and I'm just throwing a number out there, I don't know what they were offered, but I'm just saying like somebody come offer you $80,000 at that time and you're young coming up like them and they say, I want to sign you to my label and I'm giving you $80,000 up front. Majority of us probably aren't going to read that contract, you know, coming from a lot of these backgrounds where a lot of these artists came from, like nothing. You're going to sign and get that $80,000. But now you're deep in not owning your rights to your music, not owning anything. And now you're stuck in this contract because you're signed, but you got the check. So, I mean, I've said that plenty of times. Like I said, I've seen movies and documentaries. Oh, I wouldn't have signed that. But at the time, I'm thinking like, you're young and you got a label coming to you and saying, here's some money, sign this contract. And there's a few smart ones that said, I'm not signing this. Let me have a lawyer look over it. But how many people were educated enough to say, let me get a lawyer to look over my contract?
Their debut single, Girl You Know It's True, was released and it achieved massive international success.
Girl, you know it's true. I love you.
And the album of the same name did even better, going on to sell over 6 million copies in the USA alone. They were the biggest duo in the world. Good looking, could seemingly sing and dance very well. Now, something very interesting about this situation is that on the European version of the album, it didn't have them credited as singers, but the American version did. By this time, Milli Vanilli were at the height of their career. They had achieved 3 #1 hits, Blame It on the Rain, Girl I'm Gonna Miss You, and Baby Don't Forget My Number, and a Grammy for Best New Artist. The Milli Vanilli winning streak was astounding. They excelled in everything. Then something humiliating happened during their MTV performance while performing their now infamous smash, Girl You Know It's True. The backing track glitched and repeated the phrase Girl You Know It's True over and over.
I wanted to die. It stopped. Girl, you know it's girl, you know it's girl. 80,000 people. Girl, you know it's girl, you know. You know, I couldn't repeat it 15 times. Girl, you got obvious. So I stopped, I panicked, I ran off stage.
Obviously showed they weren't singing live and arose speculations, even though no one at the concert really noticed because it was normal for DJs to do spins such as those during that time. The media caught wind of it and the digging began. The more interviews they did, people could tell that they could barely speak English. It was very broken, and to say the least, you could just tell that they didn't sing their records.
So I'm a little confused here. So in the beginning, they said that they came in and on the U.S. version of that album, their names are down there as singers. But on their version, where they're from, it didn't say they credited the other singers. So wouldn't the world, or people just didn't look at that? Like, wouldn't the world know they were lip singing at that point then? So with this going on, why would this become a major ruckus? Or unless nobody really talked about it and then them seeing it on stage made it a problem. But I mean, wouldn't people already know that they weren't really singing? Or maybe the U.S. didn't know. Maybe that's what it is.
After holding on to it for so long and feeling guilty, a few years after their rise to grace, Frank, the mastermind behind Milli Vanilli, finally admitted that Plytus and Morvan did not sing any of the Milli Vanilli records, and the Grammy they had received for Best New Artist was stripped from them.
I'm in love with you, girl, who's on my mind, and you're the one I think about most every time, and when you crack a smile, and everything you do.
So we give this Grammy back now. Brad Howell and Sean Davis are the real singers, and I think they should get this Grammy. We ended it. Robin Fab ended Milli Vanilli, not Frank Farren. We told him, if we can't sing on our record, you have to go on the press and say that we don't sing, because we couldn't break out of our contract. Just the producer can stop the contract. The artist, for us, it would be difficult to stop a contract and try to release other albums with other producers, with other record companies. So we had to pressurize him that he stepped back, but we finished this game.
How can you expect anyone, your fans, the media, anybody, to take you seriously?
That's a good question.
You guys are Milli Vanilli.
No, we are not.
Who owns? That's what I was going to ask. Who owns Milli Vanilli?
Frank Farren. We knew we were lost in the moment that we got the Grammy in the hand. We knew that gonna be.
It was done.
And we regretted it. We tell our fans we regretted it 200,000 times.
Which is actually where the Best New Artist curse stems from. It's said whoever receives the Best New Artist Grammy won't be around for long. After they wouldn't follow instructions and wanted to sing, but they couldn't, and stopped faking it, their public shaming began.
But honestly, can you really put the blame on them though? Like, I'm saying I'm going to put I'm probably 100% of the blame on the guy who signed them, because he signed them knowing what he had for them is become lip syncing group. And you can't really blame them for they're under a label and under a contract. So contract necessarily you can't break. So if the owner is telling me I got to go out there and perform this performance that's not mine, I mean, can I really be like, oh, you know what? Because at this point, ain't lawsuits gonna probably pop up because you're breaking contract. So, I mean, I get the world and they're being furious about it, but I mean, obviously they're genuinely saying like, I mean, what do you guys want us to do? Like, this is the contract we signed. This is what we were stuck under. Now, my question becomes is, did they really have a talent, like, outside of them lip syncing over what they were doing? Like, did they naturally have a talent, or he just picked them because they had this look and this image?
Fallout is one of the greatest ones to happen in music history. They then said they made a deal with the devil, referencing Frank, and they sang to prove they could actually sing. The lawsuits from upset fans poured in quickly. The record label claimed they didn't even know about this major lie. They even made light of it. Arista's vice president at that time dismissed the feeling that the label should be embarrassed by the situation, stating, 7 million albums? Embarrassing? I don't mean the end justifies the means, but we sold 7 million albums, the vice president says. The real Milli Vanilli was then revealed, and Rob and Fab still hoped that they would be able to prove themselves and achieve success the honest way. The mastermind behind this, Frank Farian, didn't seem too apologetic either, saying, what was the betrayal? Did anyone in America believe that the Village People or the Monkees really sang themselves? The Archies? Please. Everyone's been doing it for 25 years. Madonna, Janet Jackson, these perfect dance shows are expected now. So the best way to go on stage is with tapes. Meantime, Rob and Fab were still hoping for a comeback, as Rob states in August of 1991, we were so naive. We figured because we had sold so many albums as Milli Vanilli that all the record companies would be dying to sign us. After the scandal broke, we were sure that all these million-dollar offers would come pouring in, so we just went about our lives and waited. Around this time, the real Milli Vanilli had been revealed previously and went on to release an album that didn't do well. Meantime, Rob and Fab had reunited with Frank Farian, and they were staging a major comeback. Frank was going to keep his promise and finally let them sing. Sadly, the public screwed.
I mean, if you really think about it, though, like, they already got a bad name or something bad on their name. So how can they come out and really display their talent after the world destroyed them? So I figured that, you know, an album coming out, you're gonna not do great numbers, because obviously everybody's mad at you because of this lip syncing thing, which was technically, I feel like, it's not their fault, but the world's gonna be mad at you once that got out there to the world, like that is happening. I mean, you going solo trying to prove your talent. To me, as a person in the music, I think I would have gave him a second chance, like as in, okay, yeah, you were lip syncing, it's not your fault, but let's see what your talent you have. Let's see if you can really display your talent. And if they prove that they were good, I mean, let the album do what it's gonna do. But just to hate them because that happened, I mean, that's stupid to me. But I don't know what they sound like normal, so I can't really say that. Were they good or were they not? Are they gonna display that right now?
They had been receiving had took a toll on Rob, and he turned to substance abuse and was in and out of rehab.
Record coming out soon. Yeah. Scandal, I guess.
Their album titled Rob and Fab wouldn't be released until 1993 and sold just 2,000 copies in the US and was subsequently scrapped. Wow. Shortly after Rob and Fab parted ways, Fab got sober and Rob struggled and eventually passed away from an accidental overdose on April 2nd, 1998.
92, Rob and Fab released a comeback album with their own voices, but it bombed. At that point, Rob seemed unable to deal with the failures. He ran into trouble with the law, spent time in jail and drug rehab. In April 1998, Rob overdosed on pills and alcohol in a German hotel room.
That's sad.
He died at age 33.
The only thing I regret, is Rob's death. I wish he could be here today.
Fab later revealed that they had received no royalties and left that situation with no money. The saddest thing about this is that they were taken advantage of. It's a classic tale in the music industry. Young artists desperate for their dreams gets taken advantage of by greedy businessmen. They didn't read their contracts. They were also very talented, but people forget that part. Their image will always most likely remain the same in the media, but they could sing, but they weren't allowed to, for whatever reason. Also think Frank Farian, the man who orchestrated this idea, should have received blame as well.
Yeah, see, I don't get that, man. You gave all the blame to the artists when the artists weren't even in control of themselves. So you're blaming these two individuals who had no control over what they were in and were just doing as their person who is the label, basically who is controlling them, is doing what they are told. And yet now it has led to a death and somebody going through depression and drugs, all behind somebody who wanted to get rich off of some individuals and create what he had was an image and scarred them. He's not even hurt behind it. That's sad. Stories like this in the music industry, man, drive me insane. It really does.
Singers, but ultimately everyone who was involved should have caught flack, just like Rob and Fab. Nevertheless, the music that was created during this ill-fated concoction was great, but will be tainted forever. The tragedy and the thought that they never got to redeem themselves, even though they had it in them to do so, is the saddest part.
I
I'm in love with you, girl, cause you're on my mind. You're the one I think about most every time. When you crack and smile and everything you do. Don't you understand, girl, this love is true. You're so
Oh, so he's behind this song. I actually know this song. I've actually heard this song plenty of times on the radio. They actually play it quite often down here in my town. I hear this song a lot.
And it also makes you think, what other artists have done this and got away with it? Is it truly an industry thing or an isolated incident? Either way, the story of Milli Vanilli is bigger than lip syncing. It shows the selfishness, sadness, and failure in an industry that is almost always glamorized and deserves to be told to a broader audience.
Such a sad story. Wow. First off, thank you guys for sending this over. I'm really loving this journey. Like I said, I'm still going to continue with music, but I'm loving this documentary, getting behind and knowing artists more than just do their music. There's always a backstory, you know. To hear this is very sad. Like I said, I heard of Milli Vanilli coming up, but I never heard any of their music. I just know that name because it sticks out. It's a name that you just hear. And to hear that this is what happened really blows my mind. It's sad. They were controlled by somebody who had power and ran over them. And like I said, in the end, someone ended up dying behind somebody's selfishness and recklessness. Like, you gave him no royalties, gave him no money. How much money did he get out of this is the question. You know, how much money was he making off of them for them not to have anything? And to be able to bear what they had to go through, I mean, that on its own is a lot. You know, as humans, you battle, you know, hardship and deal with somebody talking about you, right? Let's just say you got one or two people. It can be family, friends, or somebody talking about you, or something going on, or somebody has something against you and you feel down, right? Imagine these two individuals, young, coming up and really genuinely have a talent, and you have this guy come to you and say, hey, I want to sign you with your talent, but then he abuses you, and your talent is really not displayed. But the time you get to show your talent, what they're saying you are good, you know, the time you get to display this talent and you actually are great musicians, and when your music comes out, it fails. And it doesn't fail because you aren't good. It's failed because somebody else failed you, created a bad name for you, and now your music has finally come out and it doesn't do anything. That will send anybody in depression. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, and you sent, and the sad part is you sent someone over the edge to their life was taken from this. You know, someone's talent that could have been something great was taken from him because of one selfish individual. That's crazy. And I really do feel that he should have got the most backlash out of anybody. He's the one who signed them. It was his idea. He created them, and they just did what they were told, you know, not knowing about the music industry, how stuff works, you know. And I think that's what happened to a lot of these young artists back then. They were just taken advantage of by these record labels, and it's sad. It's sad to see today's world. I still see artists fighting for their rights, older artists. I just seen one of my favorite singers, Anita Baker, just last year, got all her royalties, all her rights to her music, and she had to tell her fans to stop streaming her stuff just to get her stuff back. I mean, that's just the selfishness of the world, of this industry, because how much money have some of these artists made, these record labels, and you can't give them their money? Because why? They want the money, and it's really sad. And I feel like this and stories like this is what really pushes a lot of these artists over the edge, where we hear about, you know, accidental death supposedly, or you hear about an overdose, or you hear something. It's more behind it. It's not because, oh, they're in the music industry, drugs are involved and this and that. Well, we know that, but a lot of times some of these artists are dying because they're depressed, they're sad, because they don't know, and still don't know as they get older, how this industry works. And half of these companies are owning 70-80% of their stuff, and they're just getting a little chip off, you know, of what it is, and these companies are making big dollars off of them. But this is a sad story to see. I definitely personally want to, you know, see what Milli Vanilli, like, hear some of their music, like what they had, like their own style, and see what they did. Man, this really opens my eyes about them. I never knew. And that's why I say I'm glad that I didn't react to them. I haven't reacted to anything that they have, because I wouldn't have known this story about them, that this is what was going on behind the scenes. So this is a crazy, deep story. But I thank you guys for dropping this one off. Let me know what you guys think. I love the comments down below in the Elvis video we did last, and love the conversations that was going on down there. So I want to hear more about these guys. This is wild. Let me know what you guys think. Your opinions down below. See you guys in the next one.